I remember the exact sound of my mother's voice when she realized what I'd done. Sharp, disbelieving, the kind of tone that cuts even through a phone speaker. "You bought a house? Without telling us?" Yes. And for the first time in my life, I didn't explain myself. I was standing in the empty living room when she called. The walls were bare, the sunlight soft against the floorboards. I thought she'd be happy, her eldest child finally owning something of her own. But the silence after my answer told me I'd just detonated something invisible. Within a day, the family group chat was on fire. My sister called me selfish. My father said I disrespected the family by acting independently. My mother's messages turned from confusion to guilt-tripping. "We were counting on you." Counting on me? That phrase haunted me for days. The truth unfolded like a slow-motion car crash. A cousin slipped it out over coffee. "Didn't you guys plan for Sarah and the kids to move in with you once you bought the place?" I nearly dropped my cup. Apparently, while I was touring listings and calculating mortgage rates, my family had been making their own plans. Plans that involved my sister, her husband, and their 3 feral children living with me. Not temporarily, permanently. I was never consulted. I was simply designated. The responsible one. The one without kids, without a husband, without boundaries. They had envisioned my house as their safety net, their backup plan. My independence was an inconvenience. The betrayal wasn't financial, it was emotional. Years of being the quiet provider, the one who filled in gaps, who helped just until things got better. It had always been a transaction disguised as love. But this time, they'd overplayed their hand. So I stopped answering calls. I stopped explaining. And I started planning. When my mother showed up at my office 2 weeks later, she didn't come to talk. She came to convince. "We already told your sister she can move in," she said, like it was a done deal. My sister stood beside her, smiling faintly. Her husband looked away, embarrassed, or maybe guilty. I just nodded, calm, controlled. Then I pulled out a folder from my bag. Inside were the property papers, the deed, in my name alone. I placed it on the table and said quietly, "I own this. No one else." My mother's face fell. My sister tried to laugh it off. "You don't have to be dramatic." But it wasn't drama. It was clarity. They had used my kindness as currency, and I was bankrupt of patience. That night, I blocked their numbers. All of them. It wasn't impulsive. It was a surgical cut. My father tried calling from different phones. My mother emailed, begging me to think of family. My sister left voicemails filled with guilt and sarcasm. "You'll regret this when you're alone." I didn't respond. Instead, I changed my will. I redirected the emergency contact on every form. I even switched banks. Slowly, methodically, I erased every tether they had to my life. Revenge, for me, wasn't shouting or confrontation. It was absence. The kind that echoes louder than words. 3 months later, I heard through a mutual friend that my sister and her family had to move into my parents' small house. Cramped, loud, chaotic. My parents resented it, but they couldn't say no. It was their problem now. Meanwhile, I painted my living room a deep sage green. I planted herbs on the kitchen windowsill. I slept with the windows open. For the first time in years, my life was quiet. The confrontation came unexpectedly. I was at the grocery store when I saw my mother. She approached me, eyes glassy, voice trembling between pride and accusation. "Your sister is struggling," she said. "You could help." I looked at her for a long time. Then I said softly, "I did. For years. You just didn't notice." She blinked. Her expression shifted from anger to realization, then to something worse. Recognition. That was the moment she understood the truth. Not just that I had cut them off, but that I had outgrown them. I left without looking back. That night, I sat in my backyard under the soft hum of string lights, wine glass in hand, listening to the silence. It wasn't loneliness, it was peace. Every decision I made, every boundary I built, was a quiet form of justice. They had expected me to fold, to apologize, to make room in my life for their chaos. But I had built something they couldn't control: a home, a sanctuary, a version of myself that didn't need their approval. Do I miss them? Sometimes. Family ties don't dissolve overnight. They fray, they sting, they ache. But when I think of what they planned, the entitlement, the manipulation, the certainty that I'd comply, I feel nothing but relief. I didn't buy a house to prove anything. I bought it to belong somewhere. And in doing so, I finally belonged to myself. People think revenge needs fireworks. It doesn't. Sometimes it's just the sound of your own key turning.